Throughout a century of firefighting, there have been numerous fatalities and even more burnovers or close calls that could easily have been line-of-duty deaths. Rarely, if ever, are these incidents the result of a single action, decision, or condition. Instead, they are the end result of a combination or series of factors. This presentation reviews one such incident and does so with the clarity of hindsight, in the hope that it will help firefighters avoid similar circumstances in the future, and to help line managers see how their decisions impact operations in the field.
Hello, my name is Lathan Johnson. I was the acting module leader of the UNWEEP Fire Use Module during the 2006 fire season. The following presentation is about the Little Venus Fire Shelter deployment that occurred on the Shoshone National Forest, July 18, 2006. This presentation is from my perspective as module leader, leading up through the series of events that led to the shelter deployment.
The lightning-caused Little Venus fire was discovered on June 23rd and managed as a wildfire use incident due to its location in a wilderness area with a 100,000-acre MMA maximum manageable area. A fire use team managed the fire until July 5th when rain moderated the conditions and it was turned over to a Type 2 fire use manager. By July 16th, fire activity had increased and a Type 1 fire use manager was assigned. The UNWEEP Fire Use Module was ordered to replace the Black Hills Module, which was nearing the end of its 14-day assignment.
We left Grand Junction at 6 in the morning. We had 4 of our regular crew members with us and 4 detailers. It was pretty common for us to bring detailers with us. A couple of our regular crew members were on other assignments working on some qualifications. We drove to Cody, Wyoming, arrived at 5 p.m. At ICP, we met up with operations and were instructed to go get 7 days worth of supplies because the plan for the next day was to have a packer pack in our red bags and our gear to the Little Venus cabin, and we were going to transition with the Black Hills Fire Use Module. That evening, I was able to have a quick satellite phone conversation with the Black Hills Module leader. We talked mostly about logistical concerns at the cabin and figured we were going to have a face-to-face the following day. Like a lot of sat phone conversations, they broke up several times, but this was one of the key points in time where I lost the ability to get some key information going into that fire. Also that evening, we were informed that we were going to have 2 additional detailers from the local forest to come up with us to help them work on some of their fire effects monitor qualifications. The large number of detailers was a little bit of a concern to me.
Although Lathan was not included, nor did he know about it until months later, there was a planning meeting that same evening with a permittee who had cattle in the area of the fire. This meeting was to plan an operation to relocate the cattle the following day. Not being included in this meeting and not being told of the operation reduced the overall situational awareness of events at the incident.
The last thing that happened that evening before we left for our hotel was that operations came out and had a quick chat with the entire crew about the big picture of operations going on. Talked about how the fire had a 100,000-acre MMA and also that there was 60 to 80% standing dead timber due to a recent bug epidemic. When we asked what time we should show up in the morning, we were told 07:30. I remember thinking in my head, boy, this seems like a late start. It'd be nice to get started at the crack of dawn.
The following morning, having arrived at ICP at 07:30, the crew viewed a grizzly bear awareness video, while Lathan and the assistant module leader received a thorough briefing about the fire, operations, and duties the crew would be involved in, weather, and other factors.
One of the major concerns we had walking out of that briefing was that there was spotty commo. There's a portable repeater that had been set up that didn't function. They were going to be working on it. Plus, there was a forest repeater that you could hit from some areas of the fire, but it wasn't clear where exactly those were. I was unaware at the time of how spotty radio communications were and how that was going to affect our mission that day. The last thing that happened as we were leaving ICP was they were completing a 3-day incident action plan. I remember them working on the fire behavior forecast, and the F-band was actually the IC performing dual duties.
Resources assigned to the Little Venus fire on the day of the burnover included the incident commander and operations chief at ICP, which was an hour and a half away from the fire, a division supervisor trainee at the fire, along with one hotshot crew, one Type 2 crew, and the Black Hills Fire Use Module. There were also 2 helicopters at the fire, but they were restricted use helicopters doing bucket work and could not carry passengers.
The following is the red flag warning from the day that we hiked into that canyon. On the hour-and-a-half drive from the trailhead, myself and the assistant module leader discussed the late day start and hiking in with this red flag warning. When we arrived at the trailhead at 12:30, it was to our dismay to find that the packer was not down the trail. Not only that, but his mules weren't loaded up either. Additionally, he had no PPE or fire shelter. He had a 14-year-old boy that was his helper, and we spent the next hour and a half helping him load up. We knew it was wrong that they had a 14-year-old boy and no PPE, but we felt that because we were off-forest guests that we had no authority to change this. We were about to leave the trailhead. ICP called and asked if they could have us give the packer a radio. One of the locals gave the packer his radio, and when he turned it on, he read that there's a low battery light. He told the folks that he would just turn the radio off and turn it back on later on down the trail if he needed to.
After spending so much time helping the packers load the mules and getting them started up the trail, the Uniweep crew went over the incident action plan, read the fire behavior forecast, and discussed the red flag warning. It was after 2 o'clock and about 15 minutes behind the packers when they began the 8-mile hike to the Little Venus cabin. Their route would take them along the Gray Bull River at the bottom of the drainage. With the steep terrain and heavy timber, the crew could not see around the long bend in the canyon to know what the fire was doing. This photo, taken at the trailhead before the crew began hiking, shows what the fire looked like before the wind changed and fire behavior intensified after the crew was well on their way up the river canyon. The following radio clip illustrates the poor communication as the winds and fire behavior changed, and efforts were made to turn the packers and crew around.
Little Venus ICP, Black Hills on Carter. ICP, go ahead. Yeah, they're totally unreadable. And the packer, all they caught was Uniweep and the packer.
Little Venus ICP, Little Venus Fire. How do you copy me?
I got you loud and clear.
Yeah, we are suggesting that Uniweep and the pack train turn around. They're not going to be able to get through the north end of the fire.
Copy that. Would it be advisable to turn them around, but maybe stage them down the trail and see if they can get in later this afternoon?
Yeah, that's affirmative. I will try to contact them directly after I let you know that.
Copy that. Let me know if you get a hold of them.
I copy. Break with Little Venus ICP, Uniweep on Carter. Uniweep, Black Hills on Carter.
Black Hills, Uniweep, Carter, go ahead.
Yeah, Lathan, we're suggesting that you guys find a place to stage north of the fire in a safe area because you will not get through, we do not believe you'll get through the Gray Bull. Yeah, you're pretty much unreadable to me. If you can copy that, just try to find a place downriver from the fire on the north end and try to stop the Packer as well. Okay, I believe that we've copied to stop their way down upriver. Little Venus ICP, Black Hills and Carter.
Black Hills, I copied that. It sounds like we've got stopped.
So we did receive the information that we were to stop. What we didn't know was what the fire behavior was doing exactly. We stopped as a group, pulled out the map, talked about our options. We still had the Packer out in front of us without radio commo and felt like we needed to catch up with him, or hopefully he would turn around, headed back down towards us. We knew the fire was still several miles away and the timber was thick during most of the hike, and it was hard to see exactly what was going on.
Johnson and his crew had reached the confluence of the Gray Bull River and Anderson Creek, but still could not contact the Packers. One of the local detailers in the group noted there was a ridge further up the trail where they could get a long-range view of what the fire was doing and perhaps find the Packer. The group chose to continue to the ridge, but were not prepared for what they saw.
As soon as we came to this point, I knew we were in a bad spot. I estimate the fire was between 3/4 and a mile away. It was right around 1600 in the afternoon. We knew that we needed to try to get a hold of the Packer. Again, we tried him on the radio several times, and like previous attempts, it went unanswered. We lost precious minutes trying to get a hold of the Packer. Here's a short video clip of what that column did.